हरिः ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। ओम शिष्य आत्मसमर्पण। कार्पण्य दोषो उपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढचेताः यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्। ओम। So we are in the fifth shloka of the third chapter in Bhagavad Gita. The shloka goes like this: Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karma krit kāryate hyavaśaḥ karma sarvah prakriti jair gunaihi. On this shloka, we had seen the word by word meaning of it. To recap the meaning, a direct meaning is not even for a moment, a second, one can go without being engaged in action. One is impelled to act with no control on oneself for all that which are born out of the three guṇas of Prakṛti. So anything that is manifested has to be subject to this particular rule, which is not even for a moment they can go without being in action. There are some alternate interpretations where they attach the action to that which is born out of Prakriti. This is just a minor change, but eventually it means the same. Right? Instead of putting Prakriti Jair Gunaihi, they put the Gunaihi as also part of the Prakriti Janyam. The bodies which are born from Prakriti are impelled to action, and they put the three guns as the influencers or having no control. Whichever way we can see, the meaning is coming down to be the same. The Lakshyartham, we know that when we discuss about a meaning, we analyze it at three planes. One is called as Vachyartham. Vachyartham is actual, what is the sentence speaking. Then Bhavanartham is what is the expression behind it, or what is the feeling behind it. For example, the best one that we give is of that of Kathopanishad, where Nachiketa's father says, okay, I'm giving it to Yamaraja, go. There, his expression was, I am giving you to Yamadharmaraja. His bhavana was an expression of anger. That's about it. Or, it is just an expression of an irritation. Whereas the Lakshya was, do not disturb me. Not, I'm giving you to Yamadharmaraja. So they can change. So here, when we are analyzing, we look at the Lakshyartham in different ways. In relation to the context set forth by the previous shloka, why is it that Naishkarmya Siddhi, attainment of the state of non-doership, is not possible by renouncing the action? You are forced into action by the guns of Prakriti. So renouncing action is not possible. Non-doership is thus the removal of aham bhava from the action, not performing a duty. The second one is in relation to jnani versus ajnani, right? The commoner. A common man associates the I to this body. Stula Sukshma Karana Sharir. This makes the common man to become one who is identified as born out of Prakriti. Now, this leads to the natural Upadesha, as in, because you have Abhiman in the Sharir, hey Arjuna, because you have this Abhiman in your Sharir, you are bound to act. The path to elevation, therefore, is to engage in Karma Yoga, remove the Abhiman from the body with Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, and pursue the path to the liberation. to the jnanam, to the moksham. On the third one, being engaged in action is applicable to all, jnani as well as ajnani. However, since a jnani has the abhiman in Atma and not the anatma, his karta bhavam is absent. Why? Because the Atma is akarta swarupam. Means it does not do anything. There will be one shloka that comes later where Bhagwan will say, na kartrutvam na karmani. Right? So he says that neither does the Atma act, nor does it induce something else to act. So if say somebody says, hey, Atma is actionless, but Atma is making this body to act. Here, Bhagwan will even clarify that it is neither an inducer nor an actor. And because my abhiman, my association is with that of the Atma, there is no karta bhavam. Pretty similar to the previous observation, except that this one is from an observer's point of view, while the previous one is from the self, my own self point of view. So let us go into the analysis of the shloka. Kāryate Hyavaśaḥ Karma. Kāryate Hyavaśaḥ. One is subject to action with no control on oneself. That is the literal meaning. Avaśaḥ. We know vash. मैं तुमको वश में कर लूंगा. I will take you under my control. Avaśaḥ is opposite of it, with no control. Vash basically means subject to, dependent on, or being submissive. Well, Bhagwan says this, Vedanta also emphasizes on kartru swatantrayam. Okay, this is something that we have spoken. Karta swatantraha. A karta is one who has the freedom to act. So here there is a small conflict that we can see in our previous classes, be it in Vishnu Sahasranama or the previous Gita class, or even in the Brahma Sutra classes. We have spoken about karta swatantraha or swatantraha karta. If I say, or if the the Vedanta says that an actor, a karta, is swatantraha, how can he be avashaha? So that could be the basic question that arises in one's mind. In fact, karta swatantrayam versus avashatvam is one of the most fascinating philosophical discussions in Advaita Vedanta. It sits right at the intersection of karma, free will, responsibility, and liberation. Acharya very beautifully puts it as ayam Puruṣakārasya shastrarthasya cha vishayah. Puruṣakāra is the conscious spiritual effort by which a person rises above the momentum of past conditioning. Puruṣakārah, the deliberate application of one's discrimination, vivekah, will, and effort in accordance with the Shastra to overcome conditioning and progress towards liberation. We understand this as the capacity for intelligent effort. You don't have an absolute freedom, and at the same time, you are not in a total helpless situation. So that subtlety is what we are going to be talking about. Am I independent to act, or am I bound and helpless in the actions that I am performing? So that is what this particular phrase leads us towards. Kāryate Hyavaśaḥ Karma. Avashatvam. This refers to the role of Prakṛti, which is the result of past karma. At the vyashti level, which is the individual level, the prarabdham, the vasanas, and the agami karma, which is part of the samashti karma. Samashti karma, we take some prarabdha karma to be born, and agami karma is the accumulated karma that we develop over our lifetime here. This influences the prakritik amsam, the body, the mind, the tendencies. When we talk of body, always keep in mind that we are talking of the three types of body, which is Karana, Sukshma, and Stula Sharir. In this, we can discount off the Karana Sharir. The Stula Sukshma Sharir is what we are aware of. So we can even limit it to these two. So the mind, the body, the thinking, right, the feeling, and all those things are part of the body. The avashatvam, the influence of the Prakṛti, is only limited to the body, mind, tendencies, samskaras, gunas, circumstances, etc. The current state is the result of karma, and it forces you into an action. Remember, in the term action, choosing not to act, inaction, is also an action. I have chosen not to act. Not acting is my action. This is avashaha. Puruṣakāra refers to how you can put your effort in shaping up the future. Here, you have the choice to act by enabling and preparing the body to act in a way that would lead you to your objective. So you need to understand that the ability for you to exercise the swatantra bhavam in karta is limited to how you prepare this body to apply when a future situation arises. For example, there are multiple choices and I'm able to pick one and I'm executing it. So I do have, if you call that as karta swatantrayam, kartri swatantrayam, then it is one way of looking at it. It is not wrong. But the way that we need to digest this information is I have that liberty to choose how I want to shape my body to become a reactor to a situation. That is the place where we apply this vashatvam or this swatantrayam in us. The avashaha is at the time of action, it is not having the control. The examples that we have often spoken is daughter coming late from home, who is about, say, 30, 40, 50 years old, right? I'm an old man sitting in my easy chair and I'm thinking that, oh man, when my daughter comes, I should not shout, or when my son comes, I should not shout. And the moment he or she enters, the first thing that I do is shout, right? So this is called as avashatvam. Though you have that particular choice of acting, you were not able to exercise the choice of acting when it came to that point. There are some places where we are able to exercise the choice of acting very clearly. But in most of the places, the choice of action is not there. We act out of our conditioning. And we have the choice of acting in reconditioning ourselves, which will enable you to become a better actor, which leads you towards the object. Okay. So this is something that we need to keep in mind. When we analyze it, how we see it, Prakṛti provides the tendencies. The Puruṣakāra determines whether you follow them or you transcend it. Prakṛti creates the situation. Puruṣakāra determines your choice on how to respond to them, how you have matured yourself to respond to them. Prakṛti drives your internal movements like emotions, mood, creativity, hunger, pains, etc. Whereas the Puruṣakāra determines your ability to convert the same into a directed force of enablement, something that you have been wanting to do. So that is the subtle difference that we need to be careful in understanding. If we blindly think, just take it as, okay, I have the liberty to act, but at the same time, I am bound by the gunas. Okay, that is what I understand out of this shloka. Then your understanding is correct, but can we apply it? The problem is no. This analysis helps you to measure your own self and see where you can exercise your swatantrayam, your freedom of action, to shape your personality, to shape, to bring about the agami karma in such a way that this sharir becomes more matured in terms of facing the situations. Whatever the situations it may be, you don't prepare for the situations, you prepare for the emotional maturity, which we call as vivekaha. That vivekaha is what we are trying to stimulate by this discussion. Going further, the way to understand this is, my karma put me here. This is the first step that we need to take. As in, we have the tendency to blame the situation and think that we are pure. We are, what do you say, always correct. There is a tendency in us. This makes us to blame others for all the situations that you are facing in your life. The elevation that you bring is, my karma has put me here. And the realization that my Puruṣakāra will take me to my objective. So now in this Puruṣakāra, you will drop the current and you will focus on the future, not in terms of planning, execution. That is not what we are talking about. We are talking about this individual's ability to take the karma which has put me, or which will put me into any circumstance, to be able to take it further. One thing that comes to my mind is, they say a smart person can come out of any difficult situation. Developing that smart personality in you is Puruṣakāra. But it even further says that, however, a wise man will not allow such a situation to arise. That wisdom is also something that this Puruṣakāra can bring into you. So that is the way that we want to look at it. Gita does not teach absolute freedom of ego, nor absolute determinism. The individual is conditioned by the gunas of the Prakṛti. Yet, the individual retains sufficient freedom through discrimination, the vivekaha, and our guidance as being provided by Bhagavan through Bhagavad Gita or Vedanta or other gurus, right? That guidance, the scriptural guidance, to transform those very tendencies and ultimately transcend. That is what the whole thing is. We will speak more about it in chapter 14, where we will talk about the Gunatita Lakshan. Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga is the name of the chapter. So now one may ask, but Bhagavan says, Kāryate Hyavaśaḥ. So put it in the right perspective. Take this angle to think and ponder. Anger arises in me. Fear arises in me. Love arises in me. Compassion arises in me. All these are actions that arise in you, in which you hold no control. Say, tomorrow morning, you must love somebody. You cannot. You do not have a control on that. The kind of feeling that we just spoke about actually arise in us with no control of ours. Thus, the attributions that the Shastra makes are that these are the results of your past karma, past samskaras. Samskaras is something that you brought with your birth, some of the impressions that you bring with your birth, or the current guna adikyam. This again we will speak in chapter 14. At any point in time, there is one guna which is superseding the other two. That is called as guna adikyam. Then samashti karma vyaptam, the influence of all the other karma in this Prakṛti put together. Right? That is the example that we say, I am, best in shooting the bow and arrow. I aim perfectly, I shoot it perfectly, but my child runs in front of me, in the front. That is called as the samashti karma vyap. What do you say? That samashti karma, the whole world, the way that it happens. Or let us say there is a bhukamp, there is a earthquake. So that has shaken my target and it is missing the bull. Anything can happen. There is a lot of things that are happening around us, and that also has an influence. So these kind of things, that which is an outcome of these karma, past karmas, samskaras, etc., or the samashti karma, this puts the current expression or the current output in me. But the Puruṣakāra determines how you respond to it, how, the expression of it, restraining, redirecting, studying, etc. So that is why I said you develop it through making your body capable of reacting the way that you want your body to react. At the time, you may slip, no problem, because there is always another time in the future. We have learned, and then we have to reshape, retinker ourselves to come up with being able to control those emotions or express those emotions or being alert to the situations and so on. Right? So that is something that we have to develop through the Puruṣakāra. This is a foundational aspect to all that we will be learning. Develop the ability to differentiate between avashaha and Puruṣakāra. Proceeding to the Bhashyam. Kasmat punah karanat karma sannyasa matrad eva jnana rahitat siddhim naishkarmya lakshanam purusho na adigacchati iti hetva kankshayama aha. There is no separate commentary written. Acharya only introduces the purpose of this shloka. Context that set is as part of the Prakṛtik amsam. It is inevitable that everyone is engaged in karma, and hence the ahankara very naturally attributes such action to oneself. In support of this, Bhagwan has said these words in this shloka. So that's very simple outlook. It's like an overview is what Acharya has provided for this shloka. Going into the sixth shloka, the shloka goes like this. कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य य आस्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थान् विमूढात्मा मिथ्याचारस्य उच्यते. Another beautiful shloka, clearly telling us the mistake that we may be doing. This is not to measure someone else. Rather, it is for us to study about ourselves. Karma indriyani, karmendriyani, vak, pani, pado, payu, upasta. These are all the 5 karmendriyas. The ability to speak, the ability to act. Pani represents all the kind of actions. The ability to move, pado, the leg represents that. Payuhu and upasta, the reproductory capability, our excretionary capability. Sayamya is having control. Yaha aste, one who remains. Manasa smaran, from the mind. Smaran, thinking. Right? Karmendriyani sayamya, ya aste manasa smaran. Here, the manasa smaran is, I want to prevent my action or my legs from going to the pub. Okay, I have no having taken the control of my legs not going to the pub. But anywhere and everywhere I see somebody, I speak about the pub. I speak about the drinks. What happens? I have let go of it in physical aspect, but in mind, I continue to think. This is what is the first statement. Karmendriyani sanyamya yaha aste manasa smaran. Indriyarthan vimoodatma. Again, manasa smaran of what? Indriya arthan, the objects of interest. Such a person, Bhagavan scolds here. He says they are vimudhatma. Atma is that kind of, he is referring to that individual. Moodah is a common word that we even use today, foolish. But Bhagavan doesn't stop there. He puts a prefix of V to it, Viseshena, very extremely, totally, utterly foolish. And such people are called what? Mithyacharaha. Mithyacharaha means mithya is delusion, that illusion, thinking that something is there where it doesn't exist, that kind of a thought. So they have the achar, they follow the path of life of living in their own reality, not the reality, in their own reality. That is what is mithyacharaha. Mithyacharaha sa uchyate. He is said to be so. So, little cryptic. So, putting it in simple words, one who is practicing a restraint outwardly in the karmendriyas, as in one who shows off as though he has an absolute control and exhibits as though he has control over his actions. But in his mind, he continues to think about it. He admires those objects of interest, the same thing that he has let gone. He is said to be an utter fool, vimudhatma, and one who is practicing the life of falsehood. That is the literal meaning of this shloka. So let us have a recap. How Bhagwan has approached so far. Bhagwan began his answer establishing two ways of living. Jnana Yoga for Sankhya and Karma Yoga for yogis, right? The Vyavaharik lifestyle, but who are pursuing moksha. Then he proceeded to clarify karma in relation to Naishkarmyam. So inaction does not lead to Naishkarmyam. That is what he established. Mere renunciation does not give siddhi. Next, he spoke to the reason. The nature of the Prakṛti itself is such that you have no control over it. You have to act. And now in this shloka, Bhagwan defines those who live a life of false illusion. So he had concluded with the way that the avashaha happens, and when that avashaha is still influencing you, but you exhibit as though you have total vash, Bhagwan is talking about that. Bhagwan warns of fake renunciations. This may come in our mind too. So what Bhagwan is indicating is ensure that you do not have a false or a pretentive giving up. Be truthful. We spoke about it in the second chapter beginning as well. We told that Arjuna was a Uttama Adhikari. In that we said the tears from Arjuna expresses it. As a Kshatriya, what do you say, the way that we are seeing in the movies, etc., is I cannot cry. No, you will be completely in your natural self. When you are in your natural self, the ability to learn is the highest. When we become pretentious, see, a child is considered to be extremely fast in learning. The reason is it has no pretensions. It is just expressing as it is. Absolute purity. And in that purity, when it is listening, the extent to which it can learn is 1000 times more. But what are we taught? I want to laugh out loud. I cannot laugh out loud because I'm sitting in the office. I want to cry, but I cannot cry because there is going to be somebody watching me. So I have tried to get into a pretentious living. And that pretentious living is what Bhagwan is talking about. I am diabetic. I like to eat sweet. Is it better to state that I eat sweet? I'm trying to avoid it rather than compromise it. For example, if I am to drink tea, I will drink it sweet, but I'm absolutely okay not to drink tea. Now, is this the right approach, or is it good if in case I am saying that, oh man, I'm diabetic, I cannot take sweet, but at all times think of sweet. Man, I think that gulab jamun should have been very good. Right? Maybe next time we go to India, we should have that sandesh. Kind of a thinking. This kind of thought is continuously there, but to the world, I'm showing off as though, no, I am diabetic, so I'm not eating sweet. That is what Bhagavan is pointing it out. He says that be unpretentious, because the latter leads to internal conflicts and becomes the cause of further internal turbulence. Bhagavan calls them as mithyacharaha, one who acharan the mithya, one who follows the path of illusion and falsehood. Karmendriyani sanyamya. Karmendriyani sanyamya. I have externally restrained my karmendriyas. However, internally, I constantly think of it, which is manasa smaran. The word smaran is the critical aspect here. Remembering, dwelling upon, mentally revisiting the concept that has been physically let gone. Contextually, for Arjuna, though he could take up sannyas, after he has taken up sannyas and while he is maybe walking in the forest, he will go beat the tree. Or he will be thinking, man, maybe if I had fought the war, Pandavas would not have won. Or, man, without me also Pandavas has won and so many people have died. At least I could have taken part of it. His mind is not going to be in the pursuit of what he has taken up as the path. That is what would happen. And that is being condemned with both Vimuda Atma and Mithyachara. An incident that I have heard of. There was a wealthy person who renounced everything and joined an ashram in Varanasi. He has paid a lot of money to this ashram as well. Right. So before he came and he joined or took up sannyas, there is a lot of portion of his wealth he had donated it to this ashram as well. The practice in that ashram is they serve food and all bhikshu will stand in line to receive the food. In fact, in most of the ashrams, when they serve food, even if in case you're not a bhikshu there, you can go ask for food and eat it. The rich man was not comfortable waiting in line, so he cut in front. When others objected, he said, you know how wealthy I was, you know how much of money that I have given, what is the kind of donation that I have given to this ashram? I have the right to go up and take it in first. So what has happened? His letting go was good. No doubts about it. But it was only in the physical world. In his mind, that letting go has not happened yet. And that is the example that that we can use to digest that term. And why is it that Bhagwan is using such a strong word to condemn? This person stands as a classic example for one whom Bhagwan calls Vimudha Atma and Mityachara. Now, Muda or Murk, as said in Hindi, means stupid, idiotic, ignorant, dull, wrong, uncertain, or at a loss about something, perplexed, gone astray, adrift, silly. These are all the meanings that I found in the dictionary. Mithyacharaha can be broken into mithya plus acharaha. Basically, one having a lifestyle of pretentious behavior. Hypocrisy is perhaps the best word to describe this. We should not read it as Bhagwan condemning such individuals. Bhagwan is unbiased. That is what is Aishwaryam. That is what is Ishvara. He is supposed to be unbiased. So when there are expressions that seem to be condemning, it should not be seen as Bhagavan condemning such individuals. We should read it as Bhagavan condemning the pretentious behavior. A jivan should be seen as a prana swarupam and not a karma swarupam. This is another very important value we reiterate in this place. What is meant by that? There is a story in Upanishad. There will be a fight between Devas and Asuras. And Devas will run to hide because Asuras have gained a lot more of superiority in the fight. So they come and hide in the ice. But Asuras very convincingly get into the ice fight and start defeating Devas. And that is the reason why the ice can see both the good and the bad. Then they run and they try to hide themselves in the nose. There again, affected. That is why such and such. Okay, we smell good as well as the bad. Then in the mouth, and that is why the mouth speaks good and also is speaking nonsense or bad. Then they thought, okay, let us just go and hide in the mind. And when they go in the mind, there again asuras come. That is why when we think good and we think bad. And at last they didn't know what to do and they go and hide in the pranan, the breathing. When the devas hide in the pranan, the asuras come to fight them and they get scattered. The example that is given is the way that it is said in the Upanishad is there is, you take a mud and you throw it, a clay, and you throw it on the rock, the way that it will just disperse, right? That way the asuras dispersed. The value that we teach in that story of the Upanishad is, remember, the individual can have attributions of good and bad. That is prakritik, that is very natural. However, in the pranan, in the life of that particular individual, he remains pure. That person remains pure. That is what that particular thing teaches. And that is what we try to highlight when we talk about why Bhagavan is using such hard words. So this shloka should be read less about morality and more about adhikaratvam. A true renunciation is freedom from inner dependence, is the value that you may want to carry in your mind. The true renunciation is freedom from inner dependence. This is the value that we want to carry, not externally dropping. Bhagavan uses strong condemnation because of the nature of mind. Say, I tell Hari Bhaiya not to think of gulab jamun. The first thought that will arise in him is gulab jamun. Unfortunately, that is the way our mind is conditioned. So external suppression often strengthens the mental obsession. A mithya acharan will only strengthen the downfall of the individuals, and hence Bhagavan had to use strong words so that we ourselves feel the importance of not being a mithyachara. So there is a value that Bhagavan wanted to give, and hence Bhagavan had used this strong word, vimudhatma. In Bhashyam, Acharya says, he who having restrained the organs of action, such as hands, etc., and sits remaining mentally thinking, contemplating on objects of the senses. That one whose mind is deluded, vimudhatma, who is of false conduct, deceitful conduct, and sinful conduct. Vimudantah karano mithyacharo mrishacharah papacharah sa uchyate. So Shankaracharya adds a little more to it. So it is not just vimudhatma, right? It is not just mithyacharah. You are mrishacharah. You are papacharah. Right? So you are deceitful in nature. Your conduct is sinful. And that is the way that Acharya also pushes to say how important it is for us to realize the way that our mental maturity should take place over the physical giving up of things. Moving on to the seventh shloka. Yastvindriyani manasa niyamyarabhaterjuna karmendriyaih karma yogam asaktas sa vishishyate. Mithyacharah sa uchyate. Here vishishyate, saha vishishyate. Very beautifully he brings about the contrast. Yastvindriyani, yah tu indriyani. Tu is however. So now he is contrasting it with the previous shloka. However, one who, yah, as in the jnani or the sthita prajna, indriyani, the sense organs, manasa, by the mind, niyamya arabhate. This is the most important word in this shloka. He doesn't say that niyamya. He doesn't say Have it under your control. Just start having the control. That is more than enough. It will automatically develop, and that starting in itself will flower into you. It will blossom into you and bring the best output to you. Niyamya arabhate, Arjuna. Niyamya is regulated, kept under control. Arabhate, rub, to take hold of, to engage in, to undertake. So after having restrained, begins to engage in this context. In the context is what Bhagavan has very beautifully crafted his words here. Karmendriyaihi karma yogam. Karmendriyaihi refers to karmendriyas, vak, pani, pado, bhayu, upastha. Arabhate is engaged in action through the karmendriyas. So he enforces, he says that you have to engage in the action. Such a thing is called as karma yogam. Karma yogam, and he adds a qualifier to the karma yogam called as asaktaha. For people who have been in Bhagavad Gita class for long, they know karma yogam means having the detached thing towards it. Here Bhagavan is specifically calling out because it is being introduced to Arjuna here. Sa vishishyate. He is distinguished. He is better. Only he excels. Very beautiful choice of words. And there is a deep analysis that we have done on this particular shloka and the next shloka and so on. Several of the schools, you will see that it is making casual sense, so they can just easily make it, thinking that the people will very easily understand and take it forward. It is not for us to understand, it is for us to grow with it. That is the objective of our Bhagavad Gita class. And in our darshana, we ensure that we try to go deep into everything which is going to bring value to us in terms of our emotional maturity, in terms of our spiritual maturity. So that which brings, that is why I don't call this as a Shravanam. It's not just an exercise of Shravanam. It is an exercise of both Shravanam and Mananam. Nididhyasanam only you can do and I can do for myself. But Mananam, I can ignite it and I can bring a lot more fire for you to take that fire and develop it. So we will be doing a much deeper analysis on this shloka. So now let us remember the value of letting go is one, let's go from mind. We have seen this in the 55th shloka when Bhagavan started telling about Sthita Prajna Lakshan in chapter 2. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atman yevatmana tushtaha sthita prajnastadocchate. That is the way he introduces Sthita Prajna Lakshan itself. So that prajahati yada kaman sarvan is the main thing that we are highlighting in this shloka. We generally look at 3.6 and 3.7 in pairs. The objective is to see the two possible responses to life situations. It is a natural response to see the two responses to Jivan. What we learn is each of us give both the responses to the circumstances we face. It is the realization that brings about a swing from one to the other. That realization is what we are trying to pursue right now. In 3.6, Bhagavan spoke of external restraint, indulgence, mithyachara, pretentious living, and the escapist attitude, avoiding action. It is in relation to that. In 3.7, he moves into the other side of it, internal mastery, mental discipline and maturity. Right? Then sanmargaha, karma yogaha, a disciplined action for purification using the same action which binds you. That is what we are trying to go in this karma yoga class. Yah tu. The little word tu gains significance in this shloka. Tu, basically, but. On the other hand, however, etc. A key that connects the previous shloka and this shloka. That is the emphasis. The differentiator is the persona, not the person. The persona is determined by the guna adikyam till such time one crosses over the influences of the gunatita. Right? So that persona is what we are talking about. Now, manasa niyamya arabhate. This is indeed the key. The order takes an importance here. Regulate or build the discipline at the level of manaha. Take your uncontrolled mind in your control and then commence the action. Right? So because Bhagwan has used manasa niyamya arabhate, we attach this to what you should do after niyamya, after you start. Right? So this is when we associate it for the commencement of action. But manasa niyamya arabhate is another way of looking at it, wherein we start regulating our mind and then we deploy the karmendriyas towards karma yogam. The karma yogam is another attitudinal shift. We will be talking a lot about it in the upcoming shlokas. So for this, let us think of it. Not act first and think later. Allow mind to get the influence of the buddhi. This is the word that we use for niyamya. Let us, time is 7:30. So this is a very beautiful section and we will reserve it for continuing in our next class. Harihi Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.